Achilles knows the date of his death is hidden inside a choice: stay home, grow old, and disappear from memory. Sail to Troy, become the greatest warrior alive, and never return. He chooses the ship. But the tragedy of Achilles is not that he dies young. It is that he lives long enough to understand what his glory costs everyone else. His mother is Thetis, a sea goddess. His father is Peleus, a mortal king. At their wedding, a golden apple begins the quarrel that will eventually cause the Trojan War. Their son grows between two worlds, too powerful for ordinary men, too mortal for the gods. Later stories dip him in the river Styx. Homer never does. In the Iliad, Achilles can bleed. Thetis hears the prophecy: Troy will make Achilles famous and kill him. She hides him on Skyros, disguised among a king's daughters. Odysseus arrives with jewelry and weapons, then sounds a battle alarm. The women flee. Achilles reaches for the spear. One reflex reveals him. The cleverest Greek has found the greatest and placed him on the road to his grave. At Troy, Achilles becomes exactly what prophecy promised. He leads the Myrmidons, captures cities, and moves through battle like a natural disaster with armor. Beside him is Patroclus, older in some traditions, companion, conscience, and the person closest to him. Achilles wins prizes. Patroclus tends the wounded. One gathers glory, the other keeps reminding him that the people beneath the armor are human. 9 years pass. Troy still stands. Then Agamemnon, commander of the Greek army, is forced to return a captive woman named Chryseis. To protect his status, he takes Briseis from Achilles. The insult is public. Achilles has risked his life for a coalition whose king can confiscate his honor on command. So the best fighter in Greece sits down. He asks Thetis to make the Greeks lose until Agamemnon regrets humiliating him. Zeus agrees. This is the rage named in the first line of the Iliad, not heroic anger, but anger that demands proof in bodies. Achilles wants his value measured by the disaster created when he withdraws it. Management calls this leverage. Epic poetry calls it the beginning of a funeral list. Without Achilles, Hector drives the Greeks back to their ships. Agamemnon offers gold, cities, and Briseis returned. Achilles refuses. He finally says what no one else will: the brave and the coward receive the same death. Why trade life for honor if honor belongs to the king who distributes prizes? It is a profound question, asked by a man who is still letting friends die to prove his point. Patroclus cannot watch any longer. He asks to wear Achilles' armor so the Trojans will think the great warrior has returned. Achilles agrees, but sets a boundary. Drive them from the ships, then come back. Do not chase glory to Troy. Patroclus puts on the helmet. The army cheers at a silhouette. For 1 hour, a borrowed reputation saves thousands of lives. Patroclus drives the Trojans from the camp. Then he keeps going. Apollo strikes him from behind, a Trojan wounds him, and Hector delivers the final blow. Even dying, Patroclus warns Hector that Achilles will kill him. Hector strips the armor from the body. The Greeks carry Patroclus back beneath a cloak. Achilles hears the news and pours ash over his own head. Thetis tells him the price clearly: kill Hector, and your own death follows soon. Achilles does not hesitate. The choice from his youth returns in a crueler form. Glory is no longer an abstract song. It is revenge for the person his pride placed in danger. He chooses death again, this time not because he wants to be remembered, but because he cannot imagine living with himself. The god Hephaestus forges new armor. On the shield he places not just war, but an entire world. Weddings, harvests, dancing, law courts, stars, oceans. Everything Achilles is about to abandon. When he lifts it, he carries the life he might have lived on his arm. Then he returns to battle, shining so brightly the Trojans mistake him for fire. Achilles and Hector meet outside Troy. Hector runs. 3 times they circle the city while Hector's parents watch from the wall. Athena deceives Hector into stopping. He asks for a pact. Whoever wins returns the body. Achilles refuses. Patroclus is dead, and mercy feels like betrayal. He drives the spear through the gap at Hector's throat. Then Achilles crosses a line the poem wants us to see. He ties Hector's body behind his chariot and drags it around Patroclus's tomb. Each morning he repeats the desecration. The gods preserve the body, but Achilles cannot preserve himself. He has avenged Patroclus and feels no relief. Rage promised closure. Rage has an excellent marketing department. The product rarely works. One night old King Priam enters the Greek camp alone. He kneels before the man who killed his son and kisses his hands. Then he asks Achilles to remember Peleus, his own aging father. Priam will never see Hector again. Peleus will never see Achilles again. For the first time since Patroclus died, Achilles looks at an enemy and sees the same grief wearing another face. They weep together, Priam for Hector, Achilles for Patroclus, and for the father he knows he will not see again. Achilles returns the body and grants Troy time to mourn. This is his greatest act in the Iliad. Not killing Hector, stopping. The warrior becomes human at the exact moment he accepts that the enemy was human all along. The Iliad ends with Hector's funeral, not Achilles' death. Later tradition completes the prophecy. Achilles kills more champions, including the Amazon queen Penthesilea and the Ethiopian king Memnon. Then Paris fires an arrow guided by Apollo. The famous heel belongs mainly to later storytelling. Ancient versions differ on where he is struck. What never changes is that Troy takes the life he knowingly offered it. The Greeks burn Achilles on a pyre and mix his bones with Patroclus's in the same golden vessel. His armor becomes another contest, awarded to Odysseus. Without Achilles, Troy can finally fall, but only through cunning, not strength. The greatest warrior's absence creates the world of the Odyssey. A war won by a wooden horse and a voyage haunted by what victory required. In the Underworld, Odysseus praises Achilles as ruler among the dead. Achilles rejects the compliment. He would rather be a poor laborer alive than king of every corpse. The young man chose a short life for eternal fame. The dead man understands the bargain. Songs can preserve your name. They cannot return a single morning. That is Achilles' final transformation. He begins believing death can be defeated by reputation. He ends knowing that being remembered is not the same as being alive. Yet between those two beliefs, he learns mercy. Priam cannot save him. Achilles cannot restore Hector or Patroclus. But for 11 days, two enemies interrupt the machinery of war so a father can bury his son. Achilles gets exactly the future he selected. 3,000 years later, you know his name. But the Iliad survives because it refuses to call that victory. Its greatest fighter is elevated not when armies fear him, but when an old enemy enters his tent and finds enough of a man left to listen. And Patroclus remains at the center of the cost. Ancient audiences debated the exact shape of their bond. Later writers made different claims, and modern arguments often demand a label Homer never pauses to provide. The emotional fact is not ambiguous. Patroclus is the person whose death makes victory worthless, and whose memory finally reconnects Achilles to other people's pain. Achilles can endure the prophecy of his own death. He cannot endure being the reason Patroclus reached his first. That is the hidden reversal of the hero's choice. He sailed to Troy so strangers would remember his name, then gives up his life because one beloved person will never speak it again. Glory begins as escape from mortality. Love makes mortality matter. The heel becomes famous because later generations want one simple weakness. Homer gives Achilles something more painful. No hidden flaw, no accidental defeat, no ignorance of the terms. His vulnerability is the choice he keeps making with open eyes, and understands only after it cannot be reversed. Next, the woman who turns men into animals, and discovers that power cannot keep the one man she chooses. Subscribe for the complete story of Circe.